Hello and welcome to day two of Turnip Innovation Festival 2021. We had a massive day one. We had a great response. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. So, today we have two more distinguished keynote speakers. So, I'm going to invite them now. Uh, Mr. Chandan Bhar is our first speaker, and he's going to speak on healthcare innovation for post COVID times. So, Mr. Chandan Bhar, he's the co founder and director of GPC Life Sciences Pune. Uh, he's an advisor of product pipelines and intellectual property in the pharma industry. Himself, he's a technology graduate from IIT Kharagpur and a management graduate from ITM Mumbai. Mr. Bhar has 25 years experience in drugs and pharmaceutical at senior capabilities in Dr. Reddy's and Lupin Limited. So he specialized in IP management, in API technology development, and he has made several APIs. He has been part of many, small molecule developments. He's fought many IP battles in litigations related to very important API projects. And in his long career, he has managed to develop many small molecules, recombinant genes products, biomimic APIs, and complex generic products. So, folks, he's a thorough professional in IP. He's a leader in the pharma IP industry. And I want to invite him now. And I want to hand over the stage to Mr. Chandan Bhar. Welcome, sir. And the stage is yours.
So thank you, Rahul, for introducing me. And it's my privilege to present myself on the board of Turnip. And I hope that yesterday we had a pleasant session, and we will be continuing for a great session today as well. And today I will just means I am speaking from my home, and this year this year has started in a package that is in continuation with the last year. So COVID, the coronavirus pandemic has changed the lifestyle of our Indian population as well as the world population thoroughly, and we are speaking from our home comfort. That doesn't mean that we are comfortable. Last year, almost this time, we all met at New Delhi in GIPC conference, and if everything was all right this year, also we would have met. But things has changed. So now we can see only through the monitor or screen. But nonetheless, something is always better than nothing, and uh, this is the subject of my today's discussion. That what and how we are going to overcome this situation, specifically in life sciences industries. Regarding me, Rahul has already given my introduction. We have founded a startup facility in Pune that is that will be catering various services towards pharmaceutical, special chemicals, and bulk drug industries, as well as the IP industries as well. And we will be soon publishing our brochures on LinkedIn and Facebook. Anyway, let us move quickly to the today's discussion point. Rahul, can you make it full screen, or is this okay? Yeah, just a minute. I need to. Yes, can you see the full screen?
Yes, yes, we can see the slideshow. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, so as I was discussing, this COVID has changed the lifestyle of worldwide people, and it has affected 200 countries, over 200 countries, and millions of people have died. This statistics I am giving, it is up to November. So even if you see till that time data when COVID is at the peak, you will this is the US data, and you will find the most of the population, most of the death has occurred in the population of 65 plus years. So mostly the senior citizens we have lost in this pandemic debacle, and let us see that how we are proposing. to overcome this situation, and when perhaps we will be coming back to our normalcy. So the maximum aged people were affected. Then the middle-aged people, like 50 to 64 years of age, was affected. But less populated, less young stage was affected less. Like that is, adult to adult, adulthood to 49 years. So this is the thing actually we need to see in the post-COVID times also, how best we will bring our uh, therapeutic effects. Yeah. So what we have learned from this entire episode is very important. So one thing we must remember that the reported number is only a fraction of the entire debacle. And evidences show the pre and post symptomatic cases drive most infections, which are really not means understood because of this. Asymptomatic cases. Many people even didn't know that they are infected, so it was not reported. So that is the reason actually the reported number is not the actual number of the infected people. Then the change in human behavior, as I said, the indoor contacts, that also I have been mentioning from the beginning. There are disparities in outcomes of COVID cases, the calculations, socioeconomic status, pre-existing comorbidities. These are all important things that we learn how to tackle or how to manage those things. Then signs of increased risk of secondary complications. There are multiple secondary complications, that is like pulmonary fibrosis or pulmonary embolism. Specifically, this heart related matters or the thrombosis related matters were very high. And I remember at one point Italy was reported. I think Italy was the first country who brought to this notice of the world that actually the thrombosis in brain arteries are the major reason, which is which is actually an outcome of the secondary complications. So some drugs has been triggered like dexamethasone, remdesivir. These were given some emergency authorization use approvals in US or in other European countries to immediately manage the situation. So there are public health measures like lockdown and sheltering peace, trace and isolate, all those things. There's small things like face covering or maintaining the physical distance, interpersonal distance. This we have all learned from this entire episode. But there are still a lot of things to be discovered. And here actually lies the efficiency of post-COVID treatment or post-COVID um, research work in life science, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare altogether. The success of this research will depend on what we discover from what is still unknown. So even though we are moving towards a world of vaccination, we still do not know whether the antibody present equates to immunity. This is a big factor. That how long your body is protected after vaccination. Also, this is a question, and this perhaps will come out after vaccination from the market study. So the accuracy of hospitalization and death data, that is another thing, because many cases, as I mentioned, that comorbidities were major cause. There are some secondary illness cause, and there are unreported cases. So combining all together, it is we cannot say that all the hospitals could give the accurate data. So unless that data is available, it is very difficult to interpret that what is the actual death from the COVID infection. And then how best we can combine the public health measures, as I said, to for sustained control. This this is now for the time being we are maintaining, we are applying masks, we are maintaining physical distances, sanitization, etc., etc. But for a sustained control of this infection, what are the measures that we need to uh, take lifelong? That perhaps will determine our future lifestyles as well. So these are the factors that influence the timeline to a normal time through herd immunity. The herd immunity we have discussed many times. There are two ways to reach herd immunity basically. One is progress through achieving the herd immunity through a maximum, and second way is to first achieve a threshold for the herd immunity. So if if it approaches the herd immunity towards there are two ways basically. One is the conferred immunity, and another is the natural immunity. Natural immunity is natural immunity that comes from COVID infections or other secondary infections, like something that remembered by the T cell memory. But conferred immunity will mostly come out of the vaccination process, and that's how we have already started worldwide. Phase-wise, the vaccinations will be given to the entire population slowly. Excuse me. So this is an effective immunization strategy built based on the vaccines available and the thorough vaccine research that has been done in 2020. So it is seen that what is available in vaccine pipeline. So vaccine is approved through the regulatory bodies, and whether how much is we can make it available to the public, that is the supply to reach the population. Then out of what is available, how much is administrable. So appropriate individuals to be chosen for how much administrable, and at convenient location. So initially we cannot reach all the locations and we cannot reach all the population. So we have to find out the administrable part of the population or accessible, and then we have to see what is accessible uh, within what is administrable. So here in accessible part, we will see that whether vaccination is distributed thoroughly through the stores or not. It is made access by the people or not. Now, once it comes to people, we have to consider what is acceptable. So consumers, now it is at the consumer side. Consumers have accurate information and whether they are accepting the vaccine or not. Not that if you offer the vaccine to me, I will accept. Right. So whether I am accepting the vaccine or not, that depends on how I am informed about the vaccine. Sorry, excuse me, please. Then we need to see the affordability of it and whether we are meeting the cost of it or not, and then whether we are accountable or not. So here, all the in this entire process involved is the technology and portfolio access and technology transfer, then population segmentation, ordering, and then public communication. How we are communicating to the public, how we are funding the vaccine. That will determine the affordable range or not, and whether it is accountable or not. That will be determined by the IT infrastructure. So if we see what are the steps involved in this process, that will actually tell us how best we can sustain this even after the COVID time. So with all these immunizations, if it happens properly, there are two timelines we are predicting. See, this is the midline scenario where 65% vaccine efficacy is considered, and vaccine coverage throughout 50% of the population has been considered. So with this midpoint scenario, if we calculate, there are two endpoints we can predict. One is where herd immunity is achieved. That is perhaps the Q3 or quarter four of 2021. And second thing is the transition to to form the normalcy. So when almost all aspects of social and economic life would resume. So that is predictable in quarter one or quarter two of 2021. So depending on the vaccine's efficiency, it depends on where this maxima is shifting. If the vaccine is highly efficient, or if we can cover most of the population worldwide, then the maximum will be shifted nearer. And if otherwise, it will be delayed. So, impact and recovery for the life science industries are predicted in the headcounts like drug discovery and repurposing. This is most important part, that how we bring new drugs for treating such kind of infections over the counter. So this requires a better understanding of the biology and the transmission process of the disease and the toxicity cell simulation models. These are required, and the health aid here would enhance the process is the cell simulations, molecular modeling, and CAD, that is computer assisted drug discovery process, and assisting in small targets and personalized therapies and medicine. This is very important because how we are treating mostly the age group who are in the senior citizen level for this type of infections. And more than that, we are treating a basically anti-infective section, the therapeutic category, anti-infective. So what is and there are also the secondary indications, as I said. So that also has to be treated. Keeping all those things in mind, we have to approach towards new drug discovery. This is a time-consuming procedure. To bring a new drug from table to the market, it takes almost 8 to 9 years. After all regulatory timeline is made, but only through proper simulation studies or in silico studies we can advance this timeline to some extent. So next generation of drugs to treat this should be available in a quicker way. So we have to enhance this in silico studies more and more. Over the counter medications and sanitizing products will definitely remain as important as it is in the present time. So that we have seen even the other products like hygiene products like air purifiers, water purifiers, or fitness gadgets. Those are already in high demand. Manufacturing and supply chain disruptions. This is very important. That uh, how you can cover the entire population of the world. See, manufacturing a vaccine for 130 crore in India and supplying to all the population is not a very easy job. So it requires a huge support system to develop. So that robust system we need to develop. Increased use of digital technologies. I have already said that this telemedicine has taken a big role nowadays. What How we are interacting today is also is through web channels. So this online access, this digital access, this is going to play a huge role in the future days as well. There are digital therapies also. There are clinical trials to be improved. Clinical trial is a very time-consuming process. Here, age group of the candidates, sex, male or female ratio, then geographic population, whether the Asiatic population or American population or African, that matters a lot. Then remote access to the data, sitting at US and controlling the data that is being developed in Bangladesh or Pakistan, that is also very important. Hospital channels to be developed. So almost these are the major impactful areas in life science industries that we are going to monitor in the coming days. Coming to R&D section, pharmaceutical organizations, we can see three potential horizons. One is during the mid crisis, that is resolve the issue. Then once we start recovering, the healthcare system starts recovering. I think we are now at this phase mainly that we have started recovering. So here resilience is the most important thing, and return to your life, return to your normal life. And then after passing through this this turbulence time, you settle into a new normal situation. So that requires the reimagination and reform of the entire system. So 40 to 50% of the R&D time is invested for crisis management. If we have seen 2020 situation, so most of the time of R&D is invested to manage only the crisis, not for new developments. R&D labs are operating below 50% of their capacity. Just yesterday's thing, I was going for our office, and then someone asked me that whether my office has resumed or not. I said yes, and then immediately he asked me that whether we have resumed with full strength of manpower or not. I said no. And that's the situation. The 50% still we are not able to go to our workplaces. Productivity so naturally has fallen down. So this is ranging from 25 to 75% because of this remote working. So whenever I work from home, sometimes my son disturbs. It happens. Just a part of life. So what is immediate crisis response that we can predict? One thing is that they emphasize the employee protection. This is very important how companies are going to protect the employees in the coming future. And already since COVID times, many companies, I think most of the companies have started these basic measures like offering the vacant workplaces to maintain physical distance and all the sanitization needs and all the hygiene supports where the gatherings are mostly occurring, like canteen or transportation there to maintain the physical distancing and all. So medical leaders are struggling with this these things, and the many companies are also I can see that routine thermal check is one process to allow someone into the premises or not. Then supplying these safety gears, mask, and other shields, and then patent safeguarding. Patent safeguarding is the number of reported clinical and post-market adverse effects has fallen as a result of COVID. So how many actually are reporting that what is happening in the post-market situation? That reporting pattern, the collection of data is very important. So once you stop accessing people, accessing crowd, automatically the collection of data also falls down. So through remote access, you have to remember that through remote access, mostly data are being collected now. So how accurate it is, we need to ensure it. So how we are approaching the next phase clinical trials, that is very important. As I said, that we need to decide about the population picking from which country most affected from COVID, whether the clinical trials will be done in Bangladesh population or in African population or in say in Alaska population, that has to be determined. And then what is the age group we should take? Whether the healthy volunteer should be in the young age group or at the elderly age group or what. The entire health system and sites are at that time was overwhelmed by this COVID patients. So other patients were almost not treated unless there was an emergency. So with all those things, we have planned this. We had to plan this clinical trials, and we have to remember this in future also if the same thing can happen. So implications of this interruption for the ongoing trial is another thing. There are many clinical trials which could not be completed. I remember once upon a time hydroxychloroquine was started to recommend as a COVID treatment. Then some countries started the clinical trial, and then some other message came that hydroxychloroquine is not sufficiently covering this infection, or there are some other complications reported. Those clinical trials were stopped. So now, what is going to happen with those clinical trials? Unless we have the data, we cannot conclude. That's the big implication of this life science industry. Unless we have generated a good, solid, robust statistics, we cannot predict what is out of what. What are the new disruptions we are expecting in therapeutic area? So the major disruptions of the therapeutic area that we are expecting is definitely respiratory system, then vaccination, infectious diseases as a whole. Like as I said, that this whatever is antiretroviral is not antiviral. So we have tried many antiretrovirals, the VIR series, the remdesivir or uh, acyclovir or whatever is that oseltamivir, that entire VIR series has been tried, but only remdesivir was brought to the market by a few countries. And today's date, I don't know whether doctors are really prescribing in India remdesivir or not. Once upon a time, it was, I think, mid of the last year we have prescribed, but now without that also we are controlling the cases, either chloroquine or others. So this has to be determined that in which population, which kind of treatment is necessary. So infectious disease is a big interruptions we are expecting in coming days, as well as the respiratory system and vaccination, as I said. Inflammation is another cause of death, secondary cause of death. So inflammation will be a very important therapeutic area. Gastrointestinal system. That is also because once you start giving more anti-inflammatory dosage or anti-infectious molecules, automatically gastrointestinal issues will increase, and gastrointestinal issues will automatically elevate other complications. So gastrointestinal remains the area of demand. There will be less disruption, but even non-negligible is the central nervous system, rare diseases, oncology and cardiovascular will be almost as it is. Now, there will not be very major, but moderate disruption we can always expect in these categories. Now the recovery pathway. So, how the recovery plan we can develop? This starts with the restarting of the clinical trials. As I said, it's very important to complete the paused trials. It's very important to uh, resume new trials. So this is which, where, and when strategy. So which trial to reopen, whatever has been stopped, which trials to stop completely, that weighing factors are very important. So the accuracy of statistics will depend on which trial we are taking, which model of animal, or which model of the double blind or single blind. These are very important things. Then where to restart the clinical trial? As I already said, the geography is very important. Not that all countries are equally affected by coronavirus, and the secondary syndromes also are not equally enhanced in all the populations. So, which population we will choose for this upcoming clinical trials is very important. And when to re-engage the sites based on a detailed assessment of the capacity of the local health system. That is also very important because we cannot we cannot afford all the things at a time, because now the normal life also has to resume, and we cannot dedicate the entire thing for COVID treatment clinical trials as well. So, new R&D tools in pharma industry is going to be, mostly expected is, direct to patient clinical supply, in-home nurse visit, telemedicine, I have already mentioned, and trial operation cockpits. So most of these channels have already started in most of the countries. In India, we have got new telemedicine guidelines last year, and this direct to patient supply, or this remote location treatment is already now being popular, at least in the urban section of the population. But rural section also is now under this telemedicine guideline benefits. Digital bridge is going to be very important thing, not only for drug discovery, for every kind of medical science liaison. Then field medical teams, their data collection, their coordination, the resource development, support system, for everything. Digital bridge is going to be very very important thing. Digital interactions are definitely going to increase, that R&D has to assure the quality, and the regulatory affairs, safety measures, everything, for every purpose. Digital interactions are going to be very very important things, because next onwards maybe a major section of the clinical trials or major section of the drug development will be monitored remotely, uh, uh, because it may not be possible to reach the location. So we need to more and more emphasize on this digital bridge for drug development entirely. How we are going to shape the next new normal, that so-called new normal, that is the hardening of research innovations. So you have to first refine the business continuity planning, very important, in which business to continue, which business to not. That's how the industry will revive in the coming days. I'll come to the timelines also. So first thing is to refine your business pipeline. Then rethink the post-pandemic clinical trial of the future, as I have been mentioning from the beginning. Then reset the medical field model with digital and data. So deploy the power of analytics to understand the unmet needs, where we are required to emphasize which population, which age group, which sex is mostly affected, how to categorize our unmet needs. Then create the greater resilience in sourcing models. Sourcing is going to be the very very important thing, because we need to reach a massive audience this time. Diversify the approaches to evidence generation, and finally participate in potentially regulatory evaluations. So I am almost at the end of my presentation today. That is the future of life science is all depends on how we thrive for the innovations. How do we respond? Once we start thriving, we will start responding to the system, and then the entire system will recover slowly, if not today. So there are basically three timelines we have predicted. That one is the next 3 months. That is to stabilize ourselves. Here we need to focus in digital channels, technologies, and policies. As I mentioned, there are many policies. Then over the next 4 to say 1 year timeline, we have to reconfigure the entire thing. So we have to start investing in sustainable infrastructure. Whatever we what will take a sustained course of action through long time for a faster drug development. What is required. So now we have to remember that we may not be able to afford uh, that 9 to 10 years for new drug development. So, so drug repurposing is a major area of drug development now. Not only drug repurposing, excuse me, not only drug repurposing, it is a new formulation, new dosage regimes. Everything will contribute towards a faster drug development. Existing drugs, how to repurpose what is need is very important. Much of clinical trials and everything to be reconfigured over the next 1 year. And that transform the entire system. Then you can transform the entire system after 1 year timeline. That is the long term basis. So here we have to reveal all the research portfolios, whether it is vaccine or it is antiviral or it is other secondary treatment sections. So before the end, I'll just highlight a few things that have happened in India in last year. That we have got telemedicine practice, new telemedicine practice guidelines in March. Once we started the lockdown on I think 22nd of March, and then immediately following event was 20 lakh crore package, economic package uh, was given by Indian government to build a Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. In June, Ministry of MSME has come out with new guidelines under new categorization to improvise the Make in India programs. And lastly, in October, we have got from Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers the guidelines of production-linked inventive schemes. So this production linked initiative scheme is offering a boost to the bulk drug industries, API industries specifically. So with these new policies, there may be some other policies also in future. And with these new policies, we are expecting India to reform our system. Maybe this year, this entire year, we have to invest, and maybe from 2022 we'll start rebuilding ourselves. And that is the hope I have, and hope that the entire population will cooperate with the industry, and together we can build up a stronger nation for tomorrow. So, thank you very much for your patience. And Rahul, is there any comment that I need to
Uh,
specifically address? You just
yes,
gave me first thing.
yes, we do have one comment, and actually, even sometimes I have wondered, about that. So it's a very, it looks like it's a very simple comment, but the thing is, what's going on? I mean, is it like less severe, or is it like the data, or is it the perception, or how is it with the COVID situation in India?
Can you please highlight that comment?
Yes, I have highlighted it. If you see on the broadcast studio, you,
Why COVID is not that severe in India? No, Miss Jyoti. Yeah, we have lost many people. I don't know why you were calling, why you were not that severe in India.
Hmm.
Among my known people, only lot of people we have lost. कितना? I think more than near about 2 lakh population, near about 2 lakh deaths has occurred. There are many things are not reported, and I really cannot say that it is not severe. It is severe. It is severe. And how you are comparing the cases, I do not know. But it is really an alarming situation. Thing is that we have initiated the lockdown and this physical interpersonal distances a little bit in advance, in right time, we can say. So, to some extent, we have delayed the entire process. The massive outbreak could have been controlled, but still, it is one of the severe massacres in India too.
Right, right. It's just that it's a frame of reference. So, in like, I also had a question. So, in terms of IP intensive businesses, what are the businesses that will be IP intensive? Say for particularly for post COVID, that IP will create profit, and and maybe compare it with businesses where IP is not so necessary, but still there is lot of profit and market just because of COVID.
Yes, IP is, as I said, the new drug development is going to be emphasized, and the therapeutic categories also I have mentioned very well. So that once the new drug molecules come out, definitely IP has its own merit. We all know
Hmm.
about it. Generic drug section mostly will benefit from over-the-counter medications. So
Hmm.
for over-the-counter medications, IP has less role, but the drug repurposing strategy here not only say if they already say remdesivir was discovered to treat as an antiviral like HIV and all. So that is being used in now for COVID also.
Hmm.
So that strategy of repurposing is one approach. But at the same time, we have to see other approaches of, here one therapeutic category is used in another therapeutic category. At the same time, we have to try with many dosage forms
Hmm.
or what many combinations, drug combinations. So those also will come under the purview of drug repurposing research. So
Hmm.
that is going to generate new IP more and more.
Okay.
So, entire pharmaceutical industry generic drug section, I am expecting a lot of new improvisation in the area of drug repurposing.
Hmm.
So not only the bulk drug, not only the drug molecule per se, also the formulation is also important. So,
Hmm.
how to repurpose the formulations and the dosage forms and the dosage regime? That's very
Hmm.
important thing. So, this is another thing. Clinical trial generally we do not generate IP from clinical trial, but this software edit or we can say this computer aided drug discovery will maybe a revolution in another 5 years.
Hmm.
We need to, as I said, we need to go for faster drug delivery and faster drug discovery now onwards. So
Hmm.
that one way to deal with that is the AI, artificial intelligence, and other software programming. So
Hmm.
that interaction, that interface between the pharmaceutical science and artificial intelligence, that will enhance the opportunity of IP more and more.
Right, right. And do you have any comment on the efficacy of Indian drugs for like Covaxin and all Serum Institute drug and the Bharat Biotech and so on?
We hope it will be efficacious because the minimum trials are being done.
Hmm.
So there is no reason that why it will not be efficacious.
Mhm.
So, but read the instructions properly, and you can also discuss as Bharat Biotech has already said that if there are any problems or any complications, do not take the medication. So
Mhm.
if you have any dual mind, you can discuss with your physician. But regarding efficacy, I don't think it should be a big issue.
Right. We have a question.
But yes, one point not only in India, we need to worldwide think that the very first point I have discussed in these slides, that how this how our body is going to remember this antibodies, how long these antibodies will remain effective in the body system. That is very important. There
Mhm.
was one report, one point of time, we remember that after 2 months or 3 months, these antibodies get killed in the body system. So if
Mhm.
that is the reason, then vaccine may not be efficient after a certain time, or you may need a booster dose or a repeated dose after a certain time. But but if the vaccine goes to the memory cells, like the T cell memories, and how it is occupying the T cell memories, and whether it is giving helping us for prolonged treatment or not, that is it. That those are the things will come from aftermarket service.
Right, right, right. We have a question from the audience, Mr. Praveen Vakte. Uh, so it says, how do you see the Indian herbal drugs discovery innovation canvas post COVID?
Herbal innovation, acha, this will come under mostly repurposing of the existing drug. In fact, last year some people approached me, and he said that he is trying couple of natural products, plant herbal products for treating COVID, and we filed patent application on that. I don't know what is the present status of that research, but I can understand the researches are on in India at least. So herbal drug space, it is not just the herb. It is the herbal like means the isolated compounds from various natural sources are being repurposed for this COVID purpose. That is also one way of research. But here, computer-aided drug designing will play a major role to understand which drug might fit into the particular bracket.
Right. So, in terms of, say, non-drug related innovations, for example, there are a lot of complementary things also, right, that can, boost the overall healthcare ecosystem. So, even like going right down to masks and sanitizers, and the entire value chain of tackling COVID, both in terms of operations and in terms of science. So, what are other than drugs, where innovation is needed, and if any comment on academic innovation, how they can come up with this is a huge opportunity for them, so
Yes.
how they where they can contribute.
Yes, naturally, academy industry collaborative work is one way to approach. And for new drug discovery, we are already working with academic research institutes. But here, this natural product based institutes also will play a major role, like the CDRI and all, and will boost up the entire system.
Right, right. So unless there are any new questions from academia, from the audience, I think we will end this session and we will take a 5-minute break where I can apprise the audience about the sessions during the day, and I will introduce Dr. Hemang Shah, who's actually already with us in the backstage. So he's backstage with us. So we will soon bring him in the broadcast. So just hold on, folks. So yeah, I think, sir, there are no new questions. So if you have any,
Okay.
including remarks on, because the overall theme of the conference is innovation for post-COVID economic growth. So that innovation, drives economic growth, because it's a big. Okay, Praveen Vakte, AI in pharmaceutical industry ahead. Just I think it's about. Uh, general
Yeah,
thoughts.
I have discussed actually in drug discovery. This artificial intelligence is going to play a major role to advance the entire drug discovery system. Now it takes approximately 8 to 10 years to bring a drug from bench to market, from laboratory to people. But that 8 year can be advanced or not? Can we make it to say 2 to 3 years or not? So what are
Mhm.
the measures to be taken? So the entire thing can be done with the help of the computer aided drug designing process, as well as the supply chain and all those things. Like say for example, I am saying the supply chain Amazon has developed. It has thoroughly revised the entire supply chain concept in India, at least for India. So similarly, if Amazon can do, then why not in the government?
Mhm.
So in the same manner, just by the aid of a few software or this artificial intelligence, people are reaching other people within minutes. So that also you need to emphasize. So from right from the supply chain management up to the drug discovery or clinical trials, everywhere this artificial intelligence is going to work. Clinical trial is another most important thing that I already said, that remote location control will be more important. You need to fix up which population to be treated, and then you control from India or from Australia or from US the population sitting in Alaska or China or somewhere else. And
Mhm.
then must depend on this artificial intelligence, the proper statistics to be generated.
Right, right.
Does it?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Does I hope that I have touched almost all the measures that we are going to take in future days, and how the industry is going to revise. So
Mhm.
my idea was to present here that how industry leaders are thinking to come out of this entire debacle, and then how to manage the future days, how to
Mhm.
manage such type of episodes in future days. So how we will
Absolutely.
be equipped and all. So if you have any question, you can communicate to us later also. No issue, you can write to Rahul. And if you have any comments, still you can avail me, or otherwise I just hand over the mic to Rahul. And it's a very pleasant session. I have enjoyed very much, and hope that we will again meet in person soon. Let us hope.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the most excellent presentation, sir. This roadmap that you presented about the challenges, about the new normal, about the transformation that we are expecting in 12 months, that is, I think, one of the very important takeaways, because people are living in the moment and they need someone to, think from the top and offer them that, okay, in the next 3 2 months, this is what, will create the most impact. And then how you should envision the next year and so on. So that's really really great, and really thank you and pleasure to have you on the stream. So sir, with this I will take a 5 minute break in the stream, and meanwhile I will bring Dr. Hemang Shah on the broadcast. Thank you so much, Chandan sir. I really appreciate your time, and I hope the audience liked it, and looking forward to your next session by us, and also in general. Thank you. So, folks, so Dr. Hemang Shah is with us. He is backstage, and I will bring him on the broadcast very, very soon. So, meanwhile, I would like you to just type on the chat who all have been present yesterday. Just type in the chat yes if you think that if you were there yesterday and you're also joining us today, and I will make sure that we are start exactly at 11 with Dr. Hemang Shah. So meanwhile, in the 5 minutes, just watch these videos that we have, and yeah, we will be back at 11 a.m. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session two of the have with us Dr. Hemang Shah from Qualcomm. He is the startup and innovation lead based out of Bangalore. And he's working with startups to design products that leverage AI and computing on the edge. So he's working in agri-tech, industrial IoT, robotics, automotive, medical technologies. So today his session is about design thinking for innovation, and he's a mentor to many students, colleges, and startups. So I'm sure that you're going to enjoy this session, and it is really focused on you as an inventor, on how you can be more efficient and apply some of the principles from design thinking to make more impact. So I welcome Dr. Hemang Shah.
Hey
Welcome.
everyone.
You are now live, and I will just.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Rahul, and Team Turnip for inviting me over. I am very happy, very excited to be talking to all of you. Now, I came across design thinking, accidentally. I was working with a group of friends, and the idea at that time was kind of simple. It was more like, hey, we are working on various interesting projects, ideas, but everyone has a different perspective. So why don't we meet at lunch together? So we bring our own lunch. But instead of just talking about general things, why don't we bring a problem at the center of the table? And let's all try to attack it in a methodical format. The unique part over here was each one of us came from different backgrounds. So someone came from a different cultural background, someone else came from different engineering backgrounds. Like I was a display expert. I still am fond of displays like LCDs, OLEDs. Someone else was working on audio. Someone else was working in finance. But we thought that, hey, if we bring our collective perspectives together, maybe we can hit upon some really cool ideas. That was how I got started in the world of design thinking. And I did not know it was called by that name. The process we followed is something which I'll share with you about. And through this approach, we realized numerous ideas that went into many interesting products. To me, it's also a great way through which you can create, remarkable innovations, no matter what level you are at. If you're a student, you can apply it towards your projects and then later on for other things. I have also used this design thinking framework to actually help me in my career. Like even when I'm stuck on some personal problems, I try to apply this framework. The best part is it's easy to learn and easy to implement. So why don't we get started on this journey of design thinking? So let me pull up the slides over here. Now, design thinking at the very simplest thing, it's an approach to create innovative products and services. What separates it from most of the approaches is it tries to hone on the acute understanding of what a user requires. So you're not thinking about what is it that I want to make. That is a very self-centered approach. And that's why you also see number of products which are out in the market that don't succeed. It's because the creator or the founders were so much obsessed by what they wanted to make. Here you're trying to figure out what is it that my customers need? What is it that they will want? What do I provide to them? And in order to make sure that they are fully satisfied, you are trying to get an acute understanding of their needs. Like just as an example, think of big budget movies that you have seen. And after watching that movie, you went like, what were they thinking? They are a solid star cast, they had super high budget, yet they gave us such a bad flop. They did not meet our needs. That's why we did not connect with them. And that big bang blockbuster movie never got realized, meaning the budget was spent, but the box office returns were not great. Now, in comparison, there are so many movies nowadays you see on streaming platforms where you're like, this would never get made in the mainstream arena. But the way they're capturing the dialects, the way they're capturing, the regional differences, they know what we need, they know what we identify with. And that's why they are bigger hits. Now, as I shared earlier, it's a mindset that you're building. So design thinking is an approach, it's a mindset you're creating to solve any problem. Now let's just see a framework of what all things can be, attacked by using this approach. Now this is a screenshot from a website called as i-TTO. They are one of the world's topmost innovation consulting firms, and on their site you will see many interesting case studies. So what you're seeing here is just like various areas that they have innovated in, from digital newspapers, social causes, working on genes, healthcare. You can work on energy. So you can see the canvas is really wide. It's entirely up to you into which problem you want to solve and how you go about it. Some of the other examples which I'll show. So, for example, here's an interesting case study. Bank of America, way back then, they wanted to make customers use their debit cards. There was a time when people were just using a lot more cash. They're like, hey, debit card is actually safe for people to use. But how do they get people to adopt it? So one of the things that they came up with was called as keep the change, meaning if you swipe your card and the bill was like say $1.80, right? So normally you would have given them $2 in cash, 20 cents in change came back to you. Here they said if you swipe it with your credit card, with your debit card, we will give you 20 cents as credit in your account. So that got people to be more comfortable with using it. And see, debit card, there was initially a lot of confusion that debit card equals to credit card, meaning I'm borrowing money. But here they're like, no, no, no. Debit card is money that you already have in your account. It's safe to use, and keep the change was one way through which they were able to build more confidence in the consumers. The other thing is this hippo roller, right? We've seen numerous places, even in India, right? Still today, you have a lot of people that go to a river or to a lake to fill up water, and they're carrying it themselves. And as you can imagine, it gets uncomfortable as people age. Also, you can see the roads, they're not pakka roads, right? There is so much of turbulence, there's potholes, all that. Makes it even more difficult for them to manage that the bucket of water or a large container they're carrying on their heads, shoulders, wherever. This hippo roller is sturdy, cheap, and also very effective approach through which people can, easily go to where the water is because the sources might change and then take it to their homes. The robustness is a critical factor. It also has to look distinct from whatever else you are having at home. And finally, there is an additional factor which I will just share here is that people may be afraid that these things might get stolen. If it's bright, colorful like this, very less chances that someone will just run away with it. Now, finally, I want to share this amazing, inspiring story called as a liter of light. See, I grew up in Mumbai, and in Mumbai there are a lot of these slum areas. Now, my college road was very close to them, and I saw all of these places from close quarters. There is very little lighting, very little natural lighting in their homes. So, although they have electricity connections and all that, still the daytime lighting, no one turns on the light, and so those rooms are quite dark, and people are living in them. Now, a liter of light actually came about in some other country. What they did is very smart, very cheap, very effective. We have these 1.5 liter, soda bottles where we put, like cola or orange soda and all that. So it's a bottle exactly like that. But what they do is they fill it up with water, bleach, and one other chemical that prevents algae from growing. It's again it's very cheap. Like it's so cheap that anyone can do it. And the thing they do is they cut a hole in this tin shed. They have aluminum tin roofs, so they cut a hole over there, and half the bottle is sticking out from the roof. The other half is inside the room. And as it gets natural sunlight, the bleach acts as a light scatterer. So you're getting pretty much close to the wattage of your light bulb in a tin shed. So think about it. Are these bottles available to everyone? Yeah, I mean, See, you can go to recycle centers and even get them. Uh, Even if you have to buy them, they're not that expensive. So procurement is not an issue. Water is available everywhere. Bleach is cheap, and the material they are using to prevent algae from forming inside, it just helps with the shelf life. And that's it. No electricity required. So as long as there is natural light, they will have a light bulb kind of effect in their room. So you can create the impact of whichever kind you want for social causes, for something which is as I would say high-end technology like say MRI devices, banking, and so on. But before we dive into the design thinking framework, I want to share with you the three design challenges. Okay, so there are three challenges which you need to solve in order to create remarkable innovation. So the first one is people, meaning do people really need what I'm thinking about? Next one is technical. Is it feasible? Can I make it whatever I'm thinking about? So let's just think of this, this bleach water kind of solution. Can you really make it? Can you procure those kind of chemicals at low cost in the quantities you need? Can you actually distribute it? And so on. And the third one is business. So if you're making a product which you want to sell to people, is it going to be viable for you to run as a business? So let's cover each of these individually. So people category requires you to understand the customer. It requires you to really understand who your customer base is. Are your customers senior citizens? Are your customers kids? So I have two boys, 8 years old and 5 years old. Right now they are completely into Lego, Star Wars, action things. They don't even look at some of the things which are like say Frozen or movies like that. They're not like, even if I showed them the fanciest of toys, which applies in this other category, they are not the customers. They are very focused and defined on what they care about. So it's my job, if I want to bring a smile to their faces, it's my job to understand what is it that they truly need, what is it that they desire. Similarly, there'll be products which are suitable for different categories. There might be a technical product. If it's, let's say, online payments, people initially might think that, hey, online payments means someone who's educated, who knows how to use the phone. But then that's not the whole of the country. India has so many people who may not have degrees, but yet you want them to use it. So your compass is actually pretty wide. You best define who your customers are and whether they need their products. Let's take another example. This summer, we saw IPL, right? In COVID lockdown and all that, they had to create this event. But were people, and your people could also mean the cricket players, right? Are they available? Are they available to play? How would we create this kind of a bubble environment? What about the people who are at home, right? Like most of us, like, do we desire, to watch cricket? Now, thankfully, that's a very easy question to answer. Everyone in India wants cricket. So this one was probably easier for them to answer that, hey, if we figure out a way to host IPL, to conduct the matches such that it's a safe environment, maybe there's a high degree of confidence that people will want it. That no matter if the match is in on a weekday or weekend, public, I agree. There'll be a lot of people who will tune in and watch these matches. Then the next one is technical. If you're going to create something which is new and different from what exists today, can you be better than the competition, right? Or what are the other solutions out in the market? How will you differentiate from those? And the differentiation you want to bring in the market, can you make it really better? If you can make it better, it requires a team to work on it. So do you have the team that will work on it? Do they have the skill set? Will they need that kind of technical training or any kind of ramp up program you'll have to create? So you have to really understand that technically, can we bring it to life? Is it feasible? So let's go back to the IPL example. So IPL required the creation of this bubble, right? So they had three sites in the Middle East. How do they divide the teams amongst all of those? So that's one area with regards to how they manage the game. Now imagine the other side. All of us who are at home, they are playing a game in a stadium which is empty. And an empty stadium is going to be very hard to watch on TV. We are used to this crowd noise. So how do they create this environment for us that as viewers, we feel that there is a lot of action happening there. It's not a dull game. If you've been to most games which happen, say, locally around there, there is no audience, right? Except for the maybe the friends of the players who are playing. IPL actually kind of felt like that because no one was allowed in the stands. But yet, when we watched the game on TV, on through streaming platforms, we felt that there was a lot of audio noise, a lot of crowd noise which was filtered in. So how did they do that? So they intelligently picked up clips from different parts, merged it so that it did not feel out of place also. Now, but they had to do it real time. See, we were watching IPL live, so technically they had a lot of challenges to solve. And I believe they did an amazing job at that. It was a fantastic viewer experience, which I had. Then the third one is the business. Can we create a business opportunity out of it? So you figure out what your customers wanted, you figure out how to differentiate and how to make it. Now, third, as a business, when you are creating that product, you have to sell it. So it costs you so much to make that product. Now you have to sell it for a bit more so that you can get that profit and hopefully make a better product. So as a business, is it viable? Will others pay you for that? How much will they? And what is the market size? Now, there are some products where the market size is so small that only few people will go for it. Those are ultra niche products. A lot of luxury items happen over in that category because there's not a ton of people who will buy that. So they have to mark up the prices so that whatever small volume of customers they get makes it sustainable for them. But on the other hand, you'll have tons of products which are a volume based product. For example, you can buy a bag of chips, potato chips for like 5 rupees. Now imagine it costs them a lot of money to make that bag of chips and they're still selling it at 5 rupees. So they have to sell a large number of those bags to make a profit so that they can create a better product for you the next time. So coming back to our IPL example, if they created an environment like that, where they had a bubble, they created this technically feasible solution. Would people pay for that? And again, thankfully, because their understanding of the people was that, for example, Indians are mad about cricket. If you give it to them in a very nice format, they will pay for it. But they were losing out on a lot of other things. No crowd, meaning no ticket sales. If crowd is not there, they are losing out on all the soft drinks, all the snacks that they buy. So there's a large amount of revenue which they will not get. But how do they make up for that and still make it a viable solution? So those were some of the challenges which they had to solve. But overall, when we saw that, like, hey man, this is tremendous. In COVID times, you created a competition like that, a high level competition where everyone delivered. To me, that's a remarkable innovation which we witnessed. Okay, so let's recap what these three design challenges are. First is people, right? Where is there a real opportunity? Who is my customer? And are they truly desiring our product? Is there a need that we can identify? Next is technical, which is, can we win over the competition? We are going to create something different. Can it be better than what already exists? And if so, do we have the skill set to make it? And just answering, yeah, we could make it is not enough. We have to deliver it in the time span which is required. And finally, you have business. Is it worth it as a business? Financially, does it make sense for us to invest our time, money, and energy? Okay, so these are the three design challenges which we have. Now, let's dive into design thinking. So the three design challenges were something which you're like, okay, I have my hands on an innovation. Now, design thinking is a framework which allows you to realize that. Uh, 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 Now, there are a five-stage framework when we have design thinking. And we'll cover all of these phases in detail. So first one is empathize, where you're trying to put yourself in customer shoes. Then you move on to define, where you're trying to define a problem. Then you ideate around that problem. How will you solve that problem? Next is prototyping, which means creating solutions which deliver over there. My crude one-liner over here is you're giving them sasta, sundar, and tikau solution. Okay, the keyword is sasta, meaning cheap. And finally, you're going to test it. You're going to test whatever you make the prototype before you launch your product in the market. Now it's an iterative process. It's not like you just go for one and then you're done. You may have to do multiple loops over there. So be prepared for that. A wonderful guide that you can refer to is the Stanford D School process guide. So Stanford has a school which is dedicated to design thinking. They have wonderful resources available. I highly encourage you all to check it out. Now, in reality, the journey, because it's so iterative, feels like a roller coaster ride. That you may go from one end to the other, but it's not like you're completing an entire loop. You may have to do multiple in between loops. And just as roller coasters are, it's a fun process. You'll have fun. You'll have times when you'll be very happy. You'll have times when you'll be nervous about, hey, what's going to happen next? But at the end, it's worth it. Now let's jump into what empathize is. Empathize means you literally put yourself in the user's shoes. You're trying to live their life. And why is that required? So think about the time when you really identify with someone's problem. Most often, it's someone who is either a part of your close family or your close friend or maybe yourself. That's when you truly feel their pain in certain thing. And pain doesn't really mean an emotional pain. Like emotional one is the best one, but also it can be happiness or frustration with products that they're using. But until you experience it for yourself, until you see it so close, that feeling won't appear. And when that feeling doesn't appear, your ability to identify the core problem is not as great. So you have to really strive to get to that level. Now, what this does, or what this requires, you to understand how users are doing things and why are they doing things. So if someone is using a gadget next to you, it's fun to observe how different people use the same device, across the home. So I have kids at home who use a phone in a very different way. I use it, for productivity apps and all that. My parents use it very differently. Each one of us does things a bit differently. But you have to understand why is it that they are behaving the way they do. So no matter what you're making, you have to really try to see how are people experiencing the current solutions and try to get to the core of why are they using things that way. You have to really identify their physical and emotional needs. What do I mean by physical needs? So product, the way it looks and feels in your hands, right? It might be a kitchen appliance where say moving it may be very difficult, but maybe for some products it is required. Like your refrigerator, you want it to be stable. If it moves constantly, your refrigerator will spill things left, right, center. But if it is breaking down very fast, then you'll hear people frustrating, like, oh, this is a piece of crap, this is junk, it doesn't work, maybe other choice words. So you have to understand what their physical and emotional needs are and truly get to what is meaningful to them. So no matter which product you think of or what use case you're thinking of, understand why people are behaving the way they are. What kind of emotions are they expressing? If they're expressing through words, take note of that. If there are things which they are not expressing, but verbally they're like, a lot of times we say chalta hai, or this is how things are. That's a very strong feedback they're giving you. They are frustrated, but they can't express it properly. But you have to dig a few levels deeper and understand what is meaningful at that point of time. How do you do that? First one is observe. As much as possible, observe users actually using those products. Uh, Even better is if you can engage them in conversations. I don't mean surveys, because surveys are unemotional. Like surveys are yes or no, and a lot of times people are like, fine, I just have to fill up a survey. What I would prefer is if you had a good conversation, the kind where you discuss things over a cup of tea or coffee, where people open up to you. So get to that level of engagement. And even better is if you can, this ties in with the observation, but if you can watch and listen to that. This listening is important because they might be giving you these emotional cues. Okay. Now you have to craft a point of view. Okay, this means you create a meaningful and actionable problem statement. So in the previous phase, say empathy, you were collecting feedback on your customers, how they were using the product, how they what are the emotions and all that. But what you're really doing is you're making notes. You're creating a ton of notes. You've created a bank of observations. Now, do all of those observations mean something? That's your job right now. So you go look at your notes that you've collected, and you're like, well, what's a meaningful and actionable problem statement I can go after? And how do you do that? You look at patterns. Are there patterns in the observations? So, for example, in uh, like let's go back to this ride-sharing apps. I grew up in Mumbai, where ride-sharing apps where taxis and autos and all that were readily available. In my suburbs, it was never a problem. But the moment you went to other areas or you went to different cities, you saw that things were not that easy. If you had to get to the airport or railway station, someone went 1 hour ahead of time. They got a taxi driver to your home and all that. A person was dedicated for that. Now imagine if it was an emergency situation, nothing was available. But this was a pattern that how people were doing things. Everything had to be pre-planned. For rush things and all that, everyone was ready to pay a premium. And a lot of cases, taxis or autos may not fly by the meter. So that was a pain. But it was a pattern, an observation which you had to create. And from there, you draft a need statement. What is it that people truly need? Okay, this needs are different than wants. So what people, let's say, wanted was reliable taxi service, reliable service which shows up when they want to, an easy way to do things, right? So you don't require, like, say, I would normally send the kind of the teenagers, would get this duty that, hey, go make sure that you're getting a taxi home, or make sure you get the rickshaw home. So you wanted a need statement that you did need someone like that who was ready for that task. What you're essentially doing it is, from all the bank of observations which you have collected, you're going to narrow but a more qualitative space. So again, if I go back to the taxi example, people would have said, hey, I want more comfortable taxis, I want luxurious taxis and all that. Those are wants, those are nice things to have. That's also a part of your feedback. But from all of that, what you are going to focus on immediately is, I want reliability. I want an approach through which we can get reliable taxis at a short notice. So it's a narrow space, but a more qualitative problem space for you to attack. Now, there are different types of needs also, and it's really important to understand them. The first one are primary needs. These are needs which are absolutely required, for the product or service. So if you go to the IPL, a primary need is there needs to be cricket, okay, and our top quality players need to be playing it. That's a primary requirement. There's no compromise on that. If it's not there, then it's not IPL. It's some other tournament, but you can't call it IPL. What are the secondary needs over there? So these are things which are good to have, but not must have. And there are a lot of things which we might associate with IPL, which is some of the on-field things that we've been used to, like fireworks right at the stadium, commentators who are going over there, the fan moments, in-person fan moments. Those were secondary needs. So they're not an essential. Even if they're not there, the tournament can continue. But if you deliver on those, it will enhance the customer experience. The primary needs are for sure required. Secondary needs might make it a bit better. But the most important ones are the latent needs. So these are needs which are not expressed by the user. But if you meet them, it will result in unforgettable experiences. So again, going back to IPL, we wanted to watch cricket. We wanted to have maybe some way of interacting with the players, so which was, say, virtually possible. However, as you're watching the game, we still want to feel the action. We want to feel that we are a part of it, that there is some energy building up in close moments, in tense moments. If you watch a game on mute, it's a very different experience versus when you are hearing the crowd noise. So this is a need which people will not express, but that crowd noise is very helpful for us. So I can be a single individual user at home watching that game, but I'll feel a part of the crowd. But if you ask me, I won't call it as it's a requirement for me. I won't even express that. Until I watch the game on mute, I have not even identified myself with this need. So you have to really strive a lot of effort to carve out these latent needs. And that's why engaging your users in conversations is very helpful. Because these things will be expressed maybe 1 out of 100 times that you're trying to collect customer input. So the more you have input, the more finely you look at it, the better your chances are to carve out these latent needs. Okay, and here's where the innovation and differentiation comes from. Then the next phase is the fun phase. This is what most of us think as innovation. Okay, innovation means ideation. It means generating bunch of ideas, and we think that this is where we need to start from. However, the first two steps are ultra important, because if you answer the wrong question, you will generate a whole bunch of ideas on something which did not matter at all. And that's where a lot of innovation projects fail, because they were answering the wrong question. Now, here in ideation, what you're trying to do is you're combining your understanding of the problem. You understand your users, you understand what they truly need, and you have your imagination. So you bring them together. But the fundamental understanding of the problem is the most important part. You're trying to generate a volume. As all ideation exercises go, you're trying to generate as many solutions as possible to a problem. You think of volume, you're not thinking of quality right now. Here's where a diversity of your team helps. Because if you have a team which is diverse in its technical backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, all kinds of diversity, it helps here because everyone brings a different perspective. We all attack a problem together, and that's where we can generate amazing solutions. So key criteria here is you encourage wild ideas. So when you're trying to solve the problem, allow everything possible. There is nothing off limits. Right now is not the time where you think about, hey, is it feasible or not? Do we have the budget to make it? It's technically advanced. None of that matters. What you are doing is you're encouraging people to be as wild, as imaginative that they can be. And this also requires you to defer judgment. We watch these reality shows, the singing shows and all that, where just as a singer has sung something, the judge goes like, "Arey, aapke sur hile, आपका आपने ये note miss वो." Like all that, you can be a judge sab later on. Not at this stage. When you're generating these solutions, you are experimenting. During experiments, there is no judgment. There is a time and place for this, not in this phase. Then you move to the proof of concept. So proof of concept means, so from that big volume of ideas that you collected, you pick a few paths, maybe one or two paths which are meaningful for you to attack. And why should you prototype? Because it further helps your ideation process. Believe me, there are a lot of things where you're like, "Arey man, mind-blowing idea on the whiteboard, mind-blowing idea on paper." When you try to put it to practice, you're like, this doesn't meet my expectations. I was over optimistic. So it helps to ideate and problem solve. And the other beautiful thing is as soon as you create a prototype and you show it to a friend or show it to your team member, you're like, hey, here's what it's looking like. Guess what? They will start further ideating on it. They'll start giving you input. It means you're starting a conversation. And so you can't help but comment, right? And it's not to just criticize, it's really to elevate what you're building. And a lot of times when you start putting things in practice, you'll feel that okay, this did not meet our expectations, or the way we thought we should create the solution is not the right one. But if you fail fast and if you fail cheap, that's okay. It's something which you tried. You tried a low risk approach. It failed. Great, no problem. Move on to the next solution. So this fail fast and fail cheap is really important. So these prototypes that you create should not be expensive. It should not take a lot of time, should not take a lot of resources. Something which you create very quick with your team. And if you do that, you can test pretty much a lot of possibilities that you would not have time otherwise. Many a time, when people try to create a product, they just go down one path and they put all their time, money, energy into it. And when that path does not succeed, it results in of course, a financial failure, but the bigger failure is the emotional one, where they're not ready to take the next step. But if you are okay to fail fast and you fail cheap, you know that I have other possibilities to go after. One of those will hit, will be a hit, and I will be successful. So you got to be emotionally, it's a much better solution for you, much better approach through which you can be emotionally ready to create a winning product. And here's a graph which just shows that if you fail fast, so if you this is a project progress graph. If you fail over at this stage, your cost is not so much. You've spent some money. A lot of prototypes which I tell people are maybe created in PowerPoint or slides, whatever access you have. Or if you're creating something physical, maybe use a cardboard. If you're doing, you could do things in Excel also. So the cost of failure is not so much. But imagine if you went further down the line where you got really high-end supplies, you got a high-end team, spend that time training, ramp up, all that. You go in the testing phase, you release your product, and here is if you figure out that hey, I failed at this point of time, then the cost is too much. And this is just like let's say $1 or a rupee cost you can think of, but even more is the emotional cost of failure, which is not captured. Now, after you create a prototype, it's still not enough. Like your team may be happy, you may be happy, but you got to get feedback from your customers. So you bring in your customers who are, let's say, a part of your beta group. People who will be willing to try your product, your early adopters, who are your fanboys. Who will say like, okay, we'll try this thing and we'll give you what we truly think about it, so that you can learn from them. And if they're happy, if it's working well in their hands, like, okay, fine, this is what we refine and make better. But if they feel something is wrong with it, or if what the customer wanted and you gave them was not matching, you have to go back to the drawing board. Okay, so that you can go to the next iteration of prototypes. Mainly, you're validating your point of view. Okay, so let's recap. So the design thinking framework is a 5-stage framework. So this is, great reference for this is from the Stanford B School. You start with empathize, which means you put yourself in customer shoes. You're really understanding what their life is, how they engage with the product, how they are using a product, what are their happy points, what are their pain points. From all the feedback, all the observations that you collected, you are defining a point of view that this is a problem statement which we go after. To define that point of view, you go through a need statement that these are primary needs that our users have for the product. These are secondary needs, and these are the latent needs. The latent needs are the X factor. Now, from the point of view which you created, it's a problem statement. You ideate n number of solutions, so as many solutions as you can think of. Do it with a group, uh, get as many solutions as possible, bring diversity in, and most importantly, defer judgment. That judgment part can come, from the path that you choose to prototype. So from the volume that you choose, you select maybe one or two to prototype further. That's where you can put your judgment hats and say, okay, these are things which are cost effective. These are things we can do readily right now with a low cost of investment. You prototype with the goal of creating cheap prototypes so that you can fail fast and fail early. Because if you fail, you can test other possibilities. Once you create prototypes, you get feedback from a subset of your customers. Learn from them, learn what's working, learn what can be better. Be prepared that you may have to go back to the drawing board. But in all likelihood, you might be iterating amongst these cycles. So that's what design thinking was about. We also looked at 3 product design challenges, right? Which are people, that who's my customer base and do they truly require my product? Technical, can we make the product better than what's already out there? Can we build a team which can deliver that product? And finally, business, can we make it financially viable? So for the business viability, I believe that people have a good grasp of the people dimensions on observations, how to observe customers, figure out what's meaningful. Even the technical dimension is a bit easier to understand. That it requires you to really know what are the ways in which we can make the product. But how do you get to business viability? And for that, after your initial calculations, you must do some sort of financial modeling. These are long-term modeling approaches for you to truly determine the business viability. And so the approach which I personally prefer is NPV, or net present value, in which you're trying to do is you take the all the costs which are required, to make the product, with the team, with the marketing expenses and so on, and to the best of your ability, you try to determine what the revenues would be, and you do this exercise for the next, let's say, 5 years or 10 years down the line. And what you do is, from all the profits, well, all the revenues minus the cost, you try to determine, what is the net present value of doing that exercise today. You can read more about it. It's a wonderful technique. It truly allows you to understand whether some ventures are worth the investment or not. So many a time it does happen, by you come out of this segment, when once you put the financial modeling to, once you refine those models, you figure out that, okay, how much we were optimistic, there was a gap. We were too optimistic about something. It may not make sense for us as a business. And so the opportunity is not as strong, and maybe we should look at something else. Hopefully, in your case, is the other side, where you're like, hey, our NPV approach says that we should absolutely go for it. In fact, we might be conservative in what we're expecting. So why do I like the design thinking approach? It's customer first. And the moment you are customer first, you know what is it that they truly desire, and you're delivering to their needs. So if you're doing that, then there's a very good chances that your product will be adopted by them. It can make corporations of all sizes market leaders. So this is not just meant for startups or small companies or individuals. Large corporations have used and implemented design thinking. It can also be used to disrupt an existing industry, because over time, as we get comfortable with products, we also start getting comfortable with our emotions about them. We stop expressing things, and every now and then someone comes in and points their finger at truly what we were missing. Now we normally call them as disruptors, but truly what they were doing is they were analyzing us and figure out what was missing in our life. That's what design thinking allows you to do, and it's suitable for everyone. And I believe that design thinking is not just suitable for products, but even services. So a lot of us are used to the service industry or the service mindset. You can create amazing service experiences through design thinking also. So that's all I had to share about design thinking today. I hope it was interesting to you, useful to you. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such a great presentation. We got a lot of comments within the within the stream that this is truly nice presentation. I think we have some questions, so I'll highlight them. If you so Hardik Joshi, I think he wants to know like how much when it's like okay we are done failing.
Okay, it's a hard question to answer. It depends on the type of the project also. Some really high-end R&D projects require probably a couple of months of time, but a lot of individual efforts don't need to go that long. I would say get to a prototype through which you can understand that, hey, is what I'm making clicking with my people or not? And by my people is I mean the customers. If you think that they're just truly not happy, you're like, fine, I missed something. Let me go back to my notes and figure out if I missed something. And a lot of times what people miss is your own individual bias into what people need. Sorry, your individual bias into what people need. So go back to the drawing board and really look at your notes. But it's hard to pinpoint a number that this is the time when you give up.
So Sri Kumar is like, I have a product. He has a follow-up question. Okay, like what are the next steps basically? So
Get feedback on it. Show the prototype to your team members, the people around you. Get their input. Get them talking. And if you have a target customer in mind, just show the product to them, saying that, hey, here's someone who created a product like this. What would you think? Observe what their behavior is. Are they expressing emotions and all that? And if you think that they ask you that, hey, when is it going to be launched, or how much do you think they'll sell this at? Then you know that hey, they have a strong interest in it. That you're onto something. But if their feedback is like, I don't know how to use it, but don't go by just what one person says. Have a small sample size of probably at least 5 people or so that you can collectively figure out for yourself that okay, this is clicking and I can go further into this. Random engineering says college projects are more technical oriented only. I would say, an engineering project or college project is a great way of 1 year time, in all likelihood. So figure out what is it that you truly want to make. Figure out what the end goal is. I'm a big proponent of saying that hey, I'm spending 1 year in my college project. I want to publish this as a research paper, or I want to release a product like this out in the market. So how would I do that? So firstly, understand from what your strengths are with regards to the kind of problems you want to solve. Engineering wise, what are the problems which are appealing to you. Try to do a lot of literature search around that what are things that people have missed out on. Maybe if there's a product that you want to create, look at products which are out in the market and understand their usage patterns. These days we have a lot of data. You may not even have to start with questioning people, but you can understand from the usage patterns from market research reports. A lot of them are freely available on the web. Understand the technical adoption of those products, then start talking to customers. If you want to convert your project into a product, start talking to some potential customers. And again, it's so easy to set up these days. And then that starts your journey. Once you start building an observation bank, you figure out that hey, here's what I can meaningfully solve. And your solution, if it's a engineering project, your solution of course has to be technical of nature. So I would say the product which you're choosing also, you got to pick a technical solution into how you do it. Let's take the IPL example. So in IPL, like it seems like, hey, here's a cricket product, right? There's what's engineering in it. But if I look at the subset of how they added the crowd noise at the interesting moments in the game, that's an engineering problem. How do you know which sound patterns to pick? How do you know the interesting moments to choose from a video stream? That's video analytics. That's image engineering. So it's a very much a hardcore engineering problem that you have to solve. Even the volume that you choose to select. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can apply from an engineering perspective also. Project. What Balakumar asked, what's the project cost for prototype compared to consumer product price? I believe the for consumer products, it's much easier to create cheaper products or cheaper prototypes because you can create something which is functional quite fast. But from that prototype to that final product, it depends which niche industry you are. So let's say if it's a volume play, if it's a pure consumer play, then there's a lot more which is required from the prototype to the product, because you have to look at what kind of packaging I need. If it's going to be on the store shelves, you have to look at, hey, what is it that customers are noticing when they enter these departmental stores? What are they picking up? Is it the shape of a box? So, for example, if you go to the cookies section, there's so many biscuits and cookies. And if you have a new one, let's say which is a healthy product, how will you make it stand out from the ones which have much brighter packaging? How will they pick it up? What will their entire experience look like? Also, if it's cookies, when they reach the customer, they should be intact. They cannot be broken. So, a lot more which goes on behind the scenes. So it varies based on the kind of product you are trying to create. For some other ones, which are like let's say soap bars and all that, it might be a simpler one to create, but you still have to shine, compared to rest of the products which are already there on the store shelves. Engineers see customers as a user, but business customers are the one. So random engineering has a very interesting question, that the one who buys the product may not be the user. Yeah, so here you really have to look at the users. Your journey has to start from the one who's using the product, not necessarily the one who purchases. There's a time and place to attack that too. Uh, for what off top of my head, what comes to mind are, let's say, schools. Who is the true customer of a school? The students who are studying over there. If you are studying engineering, the person uh, who is a student is the one who is interacting with the teachers, reading the textbook, and so on. But who's the one paying for that education? Most likely, those are parents. So they are the decision makers. So of course, you have to enhance the school experience, the student experience, because that will lead to a strong word of mouth. You have to solve for them. Now, how you convince the parents is a separate thing also, right? Because so that's where you see interesting marketing tactics which are employed. That how you convince a parent to say that, hey, this is an educational approach worth checking out. So the journey always starts by solving for the users. How you convince the product purchasers is also a separate game, but it's the next phase. Okay, so Shobit asked for a service sector. How can we do the financial analysis? Uh, just as you would do it normally, right? For a service sector can be, let's say, it can be by a per hour cost, or it could be a fixed price cost. But you have to estimate the number of service hours or the service time spent. So that's one way to drive your revenue. Now, what will it cost you to create that service? Because maybe it's a software product which you had to create. Maybe there were things which you had to do in the back end. So there's a fixed product cost, okay, which was required. But then annually, you might have a maintenance cost or an upgradation cost. So to the best of your ability, you try to create that bottom line also. And of course, no one will just hear about that service just by itself. You will have to create some noise around it. You'll have to go talk to people. You may have to run some ads that, hey, you have this service. So there's a marketing cost also associated with that. Very analogous to how a product analysis works, but the same financial analysis approach applies to services also. So, Sukhwinder asked that, hey, there might be a problem faced by the public or generally in the society. How do you move? Are the government bodies, NGOs to go for non-profit funding and distribution? Yeah, the answer is yes. There are many who will do that, and you will see a lot of ideation, idea contests which are applying, a lot of hackathons which are being conducted in various domains, mainly to give an opportunity to folks like you who want to do greater good. There are companies also which will do that. I believe the onus does start with you to identify a meaningful problem, because when we talk of problems which are affecting the society, there are way too many things that an individual can go after. So identify one small space where you can truly make a meaningful difference. Hopefully build a prototype and even some small customer traction. Once you do that, once you have a solution which others are adopting, they're happy with it. I believe it creates a much greater support for your idea in receiving much larger funding. That's the approach I would recommend for you to start with. Thank you for the feedback. Truly happy, hearing your questions also.
Thank you so much, sir. I would say that it was like a very easy session. Like you told us design thinking in a very simple way, and we all enjoyed it. The session was really amazing. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And really, it was a really informative session. Thank you, Nirmala. Uh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. See you all. Have a great day.
Okay, so next up, we will have an exhibition by Team i-TTO. So please stay tuned on the same stream, and we will continue with the Team i-TTO in like 2 minutes. So, yes, be excited because they are giving out some really good hampers and goodies. We would love to see you all ask your doubts about anything related to IP and technology. Tech transfer and intellectual property. Thank you so much for staying with us, joining us, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so welcome back everyone. Now, next up, we have the team i-TTO with us for their second expo session with you people. Today, joining us will be Dr. Ashutosh Pastor. He's the incubation manager at i-TTO, Miss Pooja Bhatia, the chief manager, and Miss Reema Sani, project manager, i-TTO FITT at IIT Delhi. We hope you all are enjoying these interactive sessions. They will be talking to everyone on how to accelerate your research to commercialization. They are here to solve all your queries on IP, tech transfer, and innovation. So let's get them on board.
Thank you so much, Mansi.
Thank you.
I hope
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
audible properly.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Right. Thank you so much. I also wanted to thank Rahul and the entire team. You have done a very real great job. We are enjoying these sessions. So thank you so much for inviting us. And thank you
Yes,
everyone
ma'am.
for
Pleasure.
joining us for this session. We are really excited to meet you all. We would be happy to answer any questions that you have now or later. Mansi has already circulated our email IDs, so you know where to reach us. In a minute, I will just introduce my colleagues, Dr. Ashutosh, who takes care of the incubation part at IIT Delhi, and Reema, who is part of my team looking after the IP and collaboration. So before I kind of introduce them, I would like to, share a story with you. Most people in technology transfer from academic institutions believe that when they have a technology, they can just simply go and license it out. But that is not true. You need to develop the technology to bring it at a level where it is easily transferable. Today, Rima would be discussing that as part of her presentation later in the day, and she would be giving you exciting examples as well. Generally, a question, most questions people ask are related to how do we advance our technology to a stage where it is easily transferable. You don't need to actually do much. Just try to, look for a founder who can help you in developing your technology ahead, still keeping the baby with you. So, how is it that possible? Form a startup. Get a founder who can work on the startup. It can be either your students or the faculty itself, or you can find a friend or somebody, a seasoned CEO who can take over the company and work on it, bring the product to a stage where it is ready to be commercialized. When I say commercialized, that means it is ready to reach the market. Now, there is one very interesting case study from IIT Delhi. We had a technology on a device that prevents smell from the urinals, and it was a very small device that they just kind of fitted in the urinals, and that needed further development before it was installed. So we had licensed it out to two different companies, but the companies were not in a position to take it ahead to the market. The inventors were quite heartbroken. They thought, we have worked so hard, now what is the solution? So they, among themselves, one of the students of the faculty agreed to become a founder of a startup and form a startup on it, and then you know develop the technology and then sell it to the market. So they took a license from us. Everyone was a bit hesitant, so we gave them a non-exclusive license with the option to test it out, um, try out their hands on whether the technology can work and can it be marketed or not. They did come up with good results within an year, and then we had exclusively licensed it. Further down the line, once their 5-year period was over, it was completely assigned to them. So this is an example on how you can use startups to generate a stream of revenue for the academic institutions or for any technologies that are just with you and you don't want to work as a startup or a company on it. Those are like add-on and additional to you. So the, that is an example on how entrepreneurship can be promoted among the faculties and students, and also how you can use it to license out the technologies and ensure that they reach to the market. At this stage now, I introduce my colleague, Dr. Ashutosh. He would speak and share his thoughts on incubation. I have a question for him. Ashutosh, um, what is
Good
the
afternoon, everybody.
good afternoon? What is the general process, Ashutosh, followed at IIT Delhi for non-IIT faculty members and students? Can they incubate at IIT Delhi?
Right. So, a very good question. Actually, a lot of people are confused in this sense that whether they are able to incubate at IIT Delhi or it's just open for the students and the faculty community there.
Right.
It's an inclusive incubator. It's open to everybody. I mean, there are a few considerations that we do, but anybody, having a startup outside of IIT can also apply. Now, the few general considerations that we take into mind is that since we are technology institutes, we primarily support more technology intensive startups. Now we're in scale up phase and we might be able to support a lot of other startups also. But our core has been more of like product led, technology led startups and a few service based startups we have supported till now. Anybody who wants to incubate from outside is welcome. There's one clause that we have kept because there we think the institute strengths can actually play, that every startup has to have a faculty mentor from IIT Delhi. So you can just search the websites related to your areas and figure out who can help you in terms of a technology development or product development and try and reach out to them. In case you're unable to find, you can reach out to us and then we can try and connect you with a relevant faculty member. So that is the only link. I mean, the only thing that we request you to have a faculty mentor on board, but otherwise it's open to everybody. And the faculty, in fact, brings in a lot of advantages because one is the technical mentoring that they provide, and the other is that they connect with the institute in terms of using its facilities and all the bridges made. In terms of the process, so again, like there's a small form that we ask you to fill where you have to put in some details on the problem you're targeting, the solution that you have, and the business plans that you have. And based on that, we there's a small committee of 5-6 members who screen these applications every month. And based on the recommendations, we allow you to incubate. So anybody is eligible to incubate at IIT Delhi. There should be a registered company. We prefer private limited companies in that sense. And individuals who are having specific government grants, like in programs like Tide or BIRAC, BIG, so they can incubate as individuals as well. So we also have few EIR, for instance, in the Tide program, and with our EDC, we are having some EIR programs. So those can be availed also.
Okay, so just to summarize, Ashutosh, we at IIT Delhi would need that the company that is coming in or the entrepreneur has a technology-based idea, less
Right.
of service, and they have a faculty member from IIT Delhi on board, either as an advisor or a co-founder, uh,
Yes.
to be eligible. And then we have a proper screening process through which they have to go, and they can then incubate. And the
Yes.
same
Right.
process is followed for the students as well. So you don't
Yes.
distinguish between faculty and students. And
Yeah. Definitely.
you were mentioning about the BIG grant. So are these open to non-IIT Delhi faculty members and students? Can they avail them to incubate?
Yes, so most of our programs, but one, the FIRE program, which is only open for the IIT Delhi faculty members, all other programs are open to individuals and companies from outside. In few of the programs, you need to incubate with us. For example, the Nidhi Seed support, for instance, there the support can only be given to an incubating company, but the company can be an outside company who's incubating with us, so need not be an IIT company for that matter. And again, like BIRAC, BIG, as we are talking, and BIG is pretty much relevant to mention at this point of time because the call is open currently, and anybody who's interested can actually get in touch with us, and we can help them in applying also. So it's open to everybody. I think there are certain clauses that have to be kept into consideration. Like the company should not be more than 5 years old. Uh, its revenue should not be more than 25 crores and all. And even individuals are eligible to apply. Uh, if you have a graduation in science, any of the science streams, you're eligible to apply. And while the name suggests biotechnology ignition grant, but a lot of people from other streams like electronics, electricals, mechanical also apply. And we have had successful startups from those areas also. For example, Flex Motive, it's more of a mechanical product, but then they have a good application towards supporting disabled people. So all those people who want to apply for BARAC can apply through FITT. There are 8 big partners, and FITT brings in a lot of strengths, including tech transfer, including a large technical mentoring pool, and all those things. And we are one of the oldest big partners. So we can help out the applicants in a better way in terms of drafting their applications, also in the presentation stages, how to present, what is the expectations, how to prepare a business plan and all. So that guidance is provided by FITT.
Okay, thanks, Ashutosh. So, uh, since you're talking about BIG and how faculty members can try out to d- accelerate their research into a stage where the technology is commercializable, uh, can you share an example um, how it is actually accelerating the research, how we are helping them in
Right.
converting it into a marketable technology?
Exactly. So there are a lot of examples that we have, and some of our faculty members have actually created successful startups, be it Ecomico Solutions or recently eTex. Also, we talk about Velutude Primus. Uh, uh, Siren AI is there. So the faculty members, they do develop technologies in their labs, but then again that belongs to the institute, and then the IP is filed through the institute. So the incubator and FITT primarily plays a role where they actually enable the company to take it forward by licensing out the technology to the company, and also then helping with them with certain grants like Velutude Primus got BIG and Pfizer IIT Delhi program grant. Uh, and also we connect them usually to relevant investors and business mentors who can help them understand the market in a better way. So coming from a technology background, faculty members do understand the use cases, but then also to understand the market well, sometimes we do connect them with our alumni, with business mentors, and also with investors.
Sure. Ashutosh, I'll come back to you. There is a question on IP, so I'll just introduce Rima now and let her answer that question. So, Rima, there is a question on how will you guide students as well as mentors to understand the IP possibilities from academic institutions? Rima, you are on mute, it seems. We can't hear you.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, now you are. So I'll repeat the question for you. How will you guide students as well as mentors to understand the IP possibilities from academic institution? Dr. Mondal is asking this question.
Okay, thank you, sir. I can answer this question by giving you one example. Suppose any faculty member or any researcher who is working on any project can contact i-TTO, and we help them in formulation of IP strategy. And I must say, formulation of IP strategy is very significant from the initiation of any project. And the first thing which we will do, we will perform patentability search for your invention on the basis of its novelty, inventive step, and its industrial application. We will let you know if the similar kind of inventions are already in the public domain, or the similar kind of patent application has been filed or not. On the basis of that, we will prepare a report. And also, if your invention is unique, then we can guide you to file a patent application for that. In case if it is not novel, and from the prior art search we will get to know what are the gaps area, so we can recommend you how to improvise your technology, and what are the gap areas in which you can work upon. And not only filing patent application, there are multiple IP which can be filed for any project. So we can guide you or help you if any trademark can be filed for the product or the service on which you are working upon. If the product has some aesthetic sense, then we can recommend you to file industrial design for that product, and likewise other IP as well. And this way we can help you in formulation of IP strategy. And after filing in India, we can suggest you where you can file your applications on the basis of market assessment. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Rima. So, adding on to what just Rima said, we also run short webinars and courses for the academic institutions. We do give case to case, on basis of case to case, different webinars as required by the academic institutions. You can, just send us an email, connect with us. We would help you in kind of creating such workshops, and help you in understanding more about IP and how you can extract benefits from it. I would come to the next question, that I presume it's a doctor, Dr. Vijay. Thank you for asking this question. I just started my talk with it. I would read out your question. Uh, he has said, yesterday I have seen a message from i-TTO saying spin-off kills two birds at a shot. Can I have more explanation? Yes, I did made that comment, and what I mean through it is, if the academic institution invest in forming spin-offs, they are not just ensuring that entrepreneurship is promoted among all the levels, between among the faculty members, students, or between the faculty and the students. And at the same time, when you have a spin-off or a startup formed, you can actually license the technology on which the faculty was working on. So you are creating a stream of revenue at both ends. When a spin-off is formed or a startup is formed, the academic institution can take equity in the company. Second, when you're licensing out to them, you're again taking revenues, royalties, and lump sums, and maybe milestone payments from them. So it's a double source of revenue, and then you are at the same time ensuring there is an entrepreneurial culture cultivated at your institute. I hope I have addressed your question adequately. I will move to the next question, which is for Ashutosh. uh, Mr. Sri Kumar has asked, what are the procedures to enter incubation center at IIT Delhi as a startup company? And I think he more specifically wants to know regarding the MOU, etc.
Right. So, Dr. Sri Kumar, as I mentioned earlier also, uh, yeah, so I'll come to MOUs. I mentioned earlier also that anybody can apply. Now, for individuals, we only take them in case they have a government grant from some program, some entrepreneurship related or innovation program. But if you already have a registered private limited company, then in that case, you can talk to any of the faculty members at IIT Delhi who are working in your area. Or if you're not able to reach out directly, you can reach out to us that this is what we want to do. And if you can connect us with a faculty member, so we'll try and provide that connect. So once the faculty is on board, then you'll have to fill a short incubation form, and we'll call you in for a presentation. And the presentation formats and all also we provide, like what exactly is the expectation of the committee. And once the committee recommends you, then we move ahead with small due diligence of the company, like asking you for the general paperwork of the company, the incorporation certificate, and all those things. And then we sign a MOU with the company, or you can sign agreement, lease agreement with the company. So there are certain small charges for the space utilization, some high-end equipment utilization that the company may pay based on whatever their requirements are. And in terms of agreement, I mean, the general agreement allows you just to kind of have a synergy with the institute in terms of taking some interns and all those things. A 5% equity in terms of, you can say, like against 5 lakh authorized capital has to be issued to the institute. That is again to have a greater connect in the long run. So these are broad things, and the kind of support the institute provides, again, so as I mentioned, like the technical guidance, the business guidance, there are connects with the industry. We are doing regulatory guidance related programs, and some industries, because FITT is also an industry interface organization, and we have connects with a lot of industry members. So in case some specific requirement is there, when you need some initial manufacturing and all. And also the ecosystem brings in a lot of value, because you talk to other startups who are working on similar lines, hardware, electronics, and they have their own experiences, they have their own connects with manufacturers. So all that connect and networking also happens. So this is a broad overview. I mean, if you have any specific question, that we can take again separately.
Thanks, Ashutosh. The next question is from Dr. Patel. Are you aware of any cases where faculty slash students have got royalty or some earnings? Can you reveal the product or the approximate earning they have got? Yes, Dr. Patel, I would like to tell you that there have been 150 plus technology transfers from IIT Delhi. I have personally been involved in 50 of them since I started working with FIT, and we have got back the royalties and revenues in terms of lump sum uh, milestone payments, there is a case study which Rima is going to talk about in the second half of the day. It's on Smart Cane. That is the most successful and most social cause oriented technology which came out from IIT Delhi. If you just Google Smart Cane, you will get a lot of content on it. It was Wellcome Trust funded. I would tell the amount they have received. Rima would be discussing it, so I won't be sharing those details. But I will give you another interesting case study. I have lots of case studies actually, but this one is related to hip protection device. It was developed by Professor Bhatnagar from IIT Delhi. It helps the elderly people. They can use it to ensure that if they fall or anything, there's no hip fracture. So this particular device is currently in the market. You can check it out at Amazon. They are currently selling it. It was licensed non-exclusively to a company, and it's time to renew their license, which the other team would be doing it. I would also like to share that in the last year, that is 2020, there were a lot of COVID technologies that came out from IIT Delhi, not just the IIT Delhi faculty members, but also from the startups formed by these faculties or the students of IIT Delhi, and they are currently in the market. I would give you an example of one of the technology developed by Dr. Roy and her mentor, Professor Mangla Joshi. They have a startup called as NanoSafe. They are incubated with IIT Delhi. The technology is based on the IIT Delhi developed technology. IIT Delhi has a patent on it, and it's been licensed out to them. And they are selling it in the market. It's at a different uh, mechanism at which it was licensed out. They can either do a social cause commercialization, or they can do a commercialization, as in selling it into the market or going through the NGOs. So there are two different mechanisms for getting the revenue. At this stage, I would like Ashutosh to add a word about NanoSafe because he deals with them on a case-to-case basis.
Yeah, so NanoSafe again is a faculty and student-led company that came out of IIT Delhi, and you can call it a spin-off for that matter, because the initial technology was developed at the institute only. So the company is working on multiple things. They're also a big grantee in the big 14th call. The company was supported with a 49 lakh rupee grant from BIRAC. So the company is developing multiple products. One of the initial products was, and with the vision that they started, was to provide antimicrobial containers, especially in rural areas where people fetch water from wells and tanks, so it can be stored for a longer time without getting spoiled. So that without getting further microbial contamination into that. So that's where they started. They have launched a few products already. The Accure bottles and the larger containers are already available. And during the COVID times, the company came up with a very unique mask that they developed, and then again with the sanitizer also. So the mask is also unique in terms of that you can wash it for 50 times. There's a hydrophobic layer at the top. In between, there's an antimicrobial layer, and again inside there's a cotton thing that gives you comfort while wearing it. So the company generated really good revenues during the COVID times, and that's one of the cases which we can cite as an example of the company's perseverance. While they were developing a different product, but then they took opportunity of the challenge that COVID threw at them, and came up with a very relevant product which had earned them a lot of revenues.
And Dr. Patel, I would like to add to what just Ashutosh has said. Uh, i-TTO has helped them in filing IP for one of the cases, which is the mask one. And we have also helped them in looking for licensees to kind of distribute their product ahead, because their main focus of the company was some other product. But because of the COVID, they came up with this mask. And this is a side product, I would say, but which has given them a lot of revenue. So now they are looking for licensees. If you know anyone who would be interested, please let them know. Let them ask them to connect with i-TTO team. We would be happy to share the information on the technology and give out the license. There is another question, Ashutosh, it's for you, from Dr. Sri Kumar. Is there any PhD incubator program in IIT Delhi? If yes, how can we access it?
Yes, so there is a PhD incubator program, but there's a little bit of confusion around the program. So it's it's called the Platform for Harnessing Deep Technology. That's where the PhD comes from. It doesn't come from the PhD degree as such. So that's where a lot of people have asked me earlier also, like whether we'll get a degree after completing this and doing a startup. So no, it's not like that. But we want to support deep tech startups through this program. So any futuristic technologies that you are thinking of, which can actually change lives and are really cutting edge technologies. So we are trying to support those technologies under this program. We usually launch a call every year for the program. The first phase was completed, and those 2 startups are on board now. So we'll be launching another one somewhere in the middle of this year. And again, like the program gives you up to 50 lakh rupees of funding plus free incubation without any rental charges, plus free stay for the founders at our extension campus. So all these facilities are available. But yes, we do expect that the technology should be really cutting edge in this program.
So even though there are, a lot of programs and everything, but along with it, we definitely need an enabling framework. So if there's no
Right.
policy framework or a guideline, it's not possible to come up with so many things. For example, I think Ashutosh, you can add more information here. IIT Delhi had started a program allowing the students to experiment as part of their semester. They can just get the marks for that semester as an entrepreneurial project, and they can go and experiment with their idea to see if it can become a startup. And they do get a funding of, I think, 150 something, right, Ashutosh?
Yes. Yes. So there's the student startup action plan, and also like as Pooja mentioned about the policies. So I think having the right kind of policies is really important. As IIT Delhi allows right now, students can take semester breaks. Take a semester off if they want to do a startup. For faculty members, we have enabled sabbatical leaves, and also lien if they want a longer term engagement with the company and then come back to the jobs. And now, as we all know, like the MHRD has came up with this national innovation startup policy. So that is following a lot of things which we were already doing, and now we are strengthening our own internal policies also. But then the right kind of support, even for students, we have a deferred placement program that is available. So if a student wants to do a startup instead of sitting for placements, because there's a lot of pressure on students that you can sit for placement and get maybe a crore kind of an offer, but then they have to take a risk whether to do a startup or go with that offer. So what IIT does is that we allow them to actually ask for a deferred placement, and then they can do their startup. In case the startup fails or for whatever reason, if they want to come back and sit for a placement, so we allow them to come back to placement up to 2 years after their degree. And that kind of de-risks and that gives them a little bit of comfort while doing startups. So all these things have to be there in the ecosystem to enable people and to like kind of de-risk their because again, startup is a high risk thing. A lot of startups do fail, but the ecosystem is providing whatever it can in terms of mentoring, in terms of early stage seed capital, in terms of friendly policies, and even the government and Startup India and many other schemes are coming up to help in all these areas. So that's where I think the institutes can actually devise certain policies where they can help their own students and faculty members also.
Right. Ashutosh, the next question is, could you at least elaborate on various financial assistance or fund or grant support from you or any agency? Once Ashutosh, you have done, I would let Rima share about our new scheme which is there. So let's start with you, and then Rima can add on.
Sure. So definitely we have a lot of programs, and the programs are across spectrum. So at various stages, if we want to talk about students, so as Pooja mentioned the earlier comment that students are having these programs. We have a batch of 69 alumni award where our alumni members support a small fund that we give to students who are graduating. So 1 lakh rupee per month fellowship up to 1 year. We are also part of BIRAC's PERSH program, where we take in students who are interested in entrepreneurship, and we give them kind of an immersion experience where they can actually go to rural areas, to different industrial sites, to hospitals, and try and identify challenges on which they can actually work on and develop products. So that program also gives a 50,000 rupees per month fellowship plus a 5 lakh rupee kickstart grant. So these are for the very early stages who are like more into just ideation or thinking they have to do something. Then once you have some clarity and maybe some background work done, then from ideation to proof of concept or say prototyping stage, there are a lot of programs available. BIRAC BIG is one which I just talked about. We're part of MIT's TIDE program. That's again a national program, and FITT is one of the Group 1 centers. There are 5 Group 1 centers across the country, and we are mentoring a lot of other Group 2 and Group 3 centers, which are again incubators in the northern part of the country. So in Tide, we support EI entrepreneur residents with 4 lakh rupee grant, with startups with a 7 lakh rupee grant. And then we can also recommend them to the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology for a 40 lakh rupee seed support. We also have a couple of CSR programs like Pfizer IT Innovation and IP program, where last year we gave 60 lakh rupee funding to 4 startups in the health tech domain. We are implementing the Sonacom Star ITL Innovation Program for safe, clean, and eco-friendly mobility, where we support startups working in EV and other similar domains to have clean mobility solutions. And there we're supporting with an 80 lakh rupee fund. We're also part of different other government programs like MSMEs program, DST's Nidhi Seed Support Program. So a lot of such programs are available. The one more really interesting program is the DIO's IDEX program, where the defense forces actually give you some problem statements, and you can say grant challenges, and then you have to come up with solutions to those. So that's open to individuals, that's open to startups and MSMEs, and anybody can pitch in a solution to them. And they provide a joint development with the defense forces, giving definite problem statements and what kind of specifications and all go into the other things. So these are the programs. Then also when you come to a later stage where you need more of like investment capital, so there are some seed funds available. There's Bayrak Seed Fund, which gives you an equity-based capital of 30 lakh rupees. Nidhi Seed Support gives you some debt equity-related amount that can go up to 1 crores. Bayrak Leap can give you a equity-linked fund of up to 1 crore. So these programs are also available. And then we do some training programs also specifically for women entrepreneurs and for startups. For women entrepreneurs, we do this V program every year. And we're doing a lot of workshops, IP workshops, i-TTO is managing. We're also doing some regulatory workshops. We're also doing some founders talks where we call in some of our successful founders whom we have supported through different programs to come and share their own experiences with startups. So all these things are available. And if you need to know in any specific areas, I mean, usually I ask startup to tell me what they're working on, at what stage it is, and based on that, we can recommend like what kind of funding they can avail, what would be the best program to apply to. So that is that support we can, that kind of help we can provide.
Right. Mahesh, in fact, you can also visit the FITT website. You will find a complete list of the funding schemes we are FIT is supporting, and you will get more information there. Rima, would you like to speak about our new initiative?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Adding to funding schemes which are mentioned by Dr. Ashutosh, i-TTO is also providing financial assistance to all the DIPP registered startups who are working on life science related technology in filing their Indian patent application and for PCT application as well. For further queries, you can contact my colleague, Ms. Pragati Agarwal, and you can follow us on LinkedIn so that you will come to know about our future schemes as well. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Rima. Mahesh, you had another question on what all are the mechanism or mode of operation in motivating the faculty as well as students in terms of monetary or credit or milestone based achievements. So Ashutosh had highlighted the student motivating the students by giving them the option of deferred placements. That is one example. Other than that, there are a lot of examples. We at IIT Delhi, they are giving funds to help them in kind of bridging that gap and going and experimenting. Ashutosh, would you like to add on what exactly more things are there, because you are taking care of it on a day-to-day basis?
Right. So again, like as we mentioned, and a lot of students are involved in technology developments at the labs. So whenever a faculty member comes to us that we want to do a startup, and again, obviously there's a student involved in that as well. So a lot of companies do come out from student and faculty. And even a lot of the patents, I think Pooja must be aware that in a lot of the patents also the students are part of the patents. There we try and encourage them and motivate them. And again, as I told, like funding options are available for faculty members. We have this program called Faculty Research and Innovation Driven, Faculty Innovation and Research Driven Entrepreneurship. So we call it FIRE as an acronym. So there we are supporting faculty members with a 50 lakh rupee grant to develop prototypes, and then also a 3-year incubation period. So during the incubation period, if they want to work on the startup full time, then they can take a 1-year sabbatical plus a 2-year lien from the institute without affecting their overall job prospect. But then giving them this time so that they can like give enough time to the startup and really take it forward. So these kind of policies are available. Again, as I told, for students also, we have deferred placements. They can take semester breaks in between. We don't provide them any extra credits for doing a startup, but then we do enable them at least that their academic thing doesn't bring in a hurdle to doing a startup. So those enabling policies are available.
Right, and IIT Delhi also has their own IP policy, which ensures that the credit goes where it lies. So, if the students have developed any technology, have contributed in developing any technology, and an IP is filed, their name is there as part of the application. They do get share from the commercialization revenue once the technology is licensed or transferred. So these are kind of motivating factors for them. And other than that, the IIT Delhi students are all time motivated. I would say they are hyper pumped. So there are policy mechanisms which are helping them. Mahesh, I would recommend that if you can go through the IIT Delhi website, they have a regular updates on what are the different activities they are involved in, how their students are doing, what kind of things the faculty members are working on. You would get in bit of an insight on what are the different mechanism or mode of operations and how they are motivating. Thank you for asking this question. Rima, the next question is for you from Dr. Sri Kumar. He has developed a prototype on antenna technology, specifically 5G antenna. Can I go for filing a patent? Please give the procedures such as types of documents required, fees required, etc.
Thank you, sir. I would say, I would recommend you please connect with us, send us, sign NDA with us, and then disclose your invention. And after that, we will be able to give you all the information.
Right. Adding on to what Rima has said, Dr. Shri Kumar, just getting the title and giving you advice based on that would not be appropriate. We would like to give you an advisory document which is actually useful for you, not just a junk. And that we would cover whether you can just go in for a patent or you can go for any other form of IP, and how many types, or how, if you should just file it in India, go for a foreign filing, or it's better to restrict to India, whether you should have a limited patent or you can have multiple patent on the same technology. So all that would depend. Once we have the information on your technology, we will be in a better position to help you. Uh, the next question is, Ashutosh, I think you can answer that. It's on how to apply for the startup funding. Dr. Parasivam has this question. Our institute is the applicant, faculty, and students are inventor in one of the patent application, which is under examination phase now. Can we apply for startup funding? Yes, I would leave the question to be answered in detail by Ashutosh.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can apply for it. So, I mean, once you've filed a patent, I'm sure that you have enough background data to support your invention. So, in that case, that makes a good case to to apply for these innovation programs that government agencies have, and again, like some CSR programs also. So, depending on what exact area you're working in, I think we can suggest you some programs. But this is a good stage to apply because you have filed a patent, you have some background data to show to the committee that this is what you want to build upon, and then take it to a product. And only thing you need to work out is more on a little bit of more in terms of a business plan, and there we can also try to help you. So try and identify who are the right customers, what exactly would be your revenue model, where exactly will you be generating revenues and all. So once you have certain leads on those answers, then I think that's the right thing to do before applying. But then obviously we can also help you out in these things. Yeah.
And so you cannot just, the question that whether you can apply, yes, you can apply for the funding. Not just apply for the funding, you can also get the patent or the IP license to the startup that you form. So
Yeah.
once you have that approval, in principle approval from the institute, it definitely helps you in getting the funding, because this is one of the common question most of the funding applications would ask, if you have the license to that technology. So do uh, keep in mind that once you're applying for the funding, you have to get the approval or the
Yes.
permission from the institute that you can license it out to your startup.
Yes. So in most of the cases, the application portal will ask you for a NOC from the institute. If not the application portal, then once the committee approves your case, then during due diligence, we would require that the institute gives you a no objection or a license right at that time to use that and to commercialize that technology.
Right. And I think Pragati yesterday in her talk had also emphasized on this point, that how essential it is to have IP for raising the relevant funding. So your question actually kinds of summarizes that presentation that she has already given. And yes, please do apply for the startup funding. If it's related to biotechnology, then please speak to Ashutosh. He would definitely help you with the BIG grant, which is, the call is right now on till 15th of February. So you still have time to apply for it. Please get in touch with them,
Yeah.
with Ashutosh and his team.
So IP actually has a good weightage. I would say like 20 to 25% weightage it carries in your application. So anything which is patented or which is patentable will definitely help your case. So I think it's a good way. I mean, having a patent would be a great thing.
Reema, so how there was a question of, how we help the institute and the mentors and students with the IP filing part, but see, there are so many other organizations in the same domain. What is it that we are doing different that is going to help the innovators at different level, be it at an institute or in a startup?
Um, as a innovation technology transfer office, we draw our strength from Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer, and we have expertise in working in an academic institution. We know in and out and working culture over there. We are acting as bridging between lawyer and academic institution. So we are providing hand-holding services to all the faculty members, inventors, and startups in formulation of, right from formulation of IP strategy and filing of their IP. And of course, the patent application is a techno-legal document, and after preparation of first draft, we guide them how the claim should be, what should be, what is the USP of your technology, and how you should draft your claim. So we used to tell them all the nitty gritty of filing IP, and then after that, maintenance and further prosecution steps as well. And once you have filed Indian patent application, then we assess that IP on the basis of market potential of that technology, if it has worth to file patent application in abroad as well, because filing IP is, it is very expensive. So you should know about the thing, if your invention is worth for filing in abroad, or otherwise it is not, then this is wastage of time and money as well. So we help them in all this stuff, and after that in commercialization as well. Thank you, ma'am.
So we actually give a end-to-end service model, I would say, not just simply connecting you to the law firms and leaving you there. We help in the entire process, facilitating everything, simplifying everything, I would say, so that the innovators, be it a student or a faculty member or a startup, they know what exactly is to be done. We have had cases where the innovators don't know simply what to do with Form 1 or the other formalities to be completed with the patent office, where the signatory of the institute has to sign. They would just sign and submit the form, which actually is not useful because you're harming your own case. So that is where we come into the picture, help in simplifying all these nitty gritties, or removing all the jargon, making it and ensuring that it is in a language which is understandable to you. We have another question from Mahesh. Ashutosh, what are the popular Indian based investors like Tata, etc., that are tied up with you?
So there are a lot of companies. Actually, I would say there are companies like Reliance who have invested in some of our, or maybe doing joint products, ventures with our startups, or maybe collaborative research with our startups. Uh, Samsung has supported some of our startups. Pfizer, as I told, like they have supported startups. So more than investment, you can say like it's a CSR program that they're doing. Sona Comstar, one of the larger automotive component manufacturers, they are supporting. So I mean, we have a lot of companies, even like a BHEL, the defense PSUs, and many other tie-ups we have. Uh, LNT, for instance, is now supporting. I mean, the stage is open. So I mean, the discussions are almost in final stages. So they are supporting one of our startups. So many companies are doing that. That depends primarily on the areas of interest, and there are also investments from companies like GAIL, HPCL, into startups working in energy and oil and gas sectors. From Engineers India Limited, we are having investments into startups. So many companies are there.
Right. And again, as I said, Mahesh, there is all this information is there on our website. You can go through it. You would, get a lot of information there. Who all FIT is connected with, which are the companies that are working with FITT, with IIT Delhi. You will get all the information there. Or otherwise, you can always, ping us and ask us. We are there on LinkedIn. Our email addresses are there on the website. uh, there are numerous ways to reach us out, and I believe, Mahesh, you are connected with me on LinkedIn, and you're from NRDC, so we will be happy to take any further questions that you have. I would like to remind everyone we are running a quiz, which is open till end of the day today. Please take that quiz. We have a beautiful hamper with products from IIT Delhi Technology, started technology startup, which is related to waterless technology. You don't need to use water. Uh, in cold, nobody likes bathing, so there's a solution for that. Uh, Please try that quiz and win the hamper. We still have 13 more minutes. If there are more questions, we would be happy to take it up. And I think yesterday there was a session from Sanskriti. She did speak about big, uh, but I would request Ashutosh to repeat the due date for big and how everyone can access the page to apply for the funding.
Sure. So I think BIG is one of the flagship programs that I think we have, or maybe even you can say is one of the longest running program that we've seen for some time now. So BIG started in 2012, and at FITT alone we have supported like 85 odd startups. So every startup gets a funding usually in the range of 40 to 50 lakh rupees, but again depending on what exactly are the requirements. So this program is open to individual innovators also. Faculty members can apply. Uh, PhD students who are in the final years and all, they are like most welcome to apply. Uh, if there are PhD students who are in the second, third year, they'll have to get a NOC and maybe convert their PhD to part time if they want to take it up. But I would suggest like people who are like completing their PhDs, they can apply. And again, like startup companies, so, I mean, the program primarily is meant for startup companies, but again, it's like from individuals whom we support, we expect that they can register startup companies. Now, talking a little bit about the program. So, as you all know, it's an 18-month program with a 50 lakh rupee funding that is given to the innovator. I mean, once you're having a company as a majority stakeholder, you can apply. So the PI should be a stakeholder in the company. That is required. The individual should be having a master's, maybe a science graduation degree minimum to be eligible to apply. You should be an Indian citizen. If the company is there, so the company has to be registered in India, and majority stakeholders have to be resident Indian citizens. So these are the basic criteria. Based on that, you can determine your eligibility. In terms of the application, so a lot goes into the application. It's a detailed form. If anybody really is interested, I would suggest to connect with us, and also register at birac.nic.in. You can see, like, under call for proposals, there's a call for BIG, and the form asks you a lot of things. One is like a problem statement or your solution, the technological novelty, the market potential, what are the risk factors in terms of the technology, what are your business plans. Then you will be asked detailed milestones, objectives, and your budget. So all this information you have to fill in, and it's an extensive form. So anybody who intends to apply, I usually suggest them to register as soon as possible and go through the form. And you can fill it in multiple settings, so you can save it as a draft whenever you want till the final last date. And once you are convinced that the form is complete, then you can do a final submit. So I would request anybody who's interested to maybe get in touch with us or to visit the BIRAC website, and you can apply through FITT. As I mentioned, FITT brings in a lot of expertise in helping innovators, and we have supported, as I told, like 85 odd companies till now to get the grant, with a lot of applications coming in. And it doesn't just stop at getting the funding, but then the handholding that comes in later in terms of the technological support, in terms of the IPR support, in terms of business mentoring, connects, and all that. Again, we also connect with investors. We're also one of the leading bionist incubators in the northern cluster. So there's a lot of networking with other resource centers and all. So with that experience, I think we'll be able to help you in a better way. So just connect with us in case you feel you are eligible to apply for the program, and we'll help you out.
Adding on to what Ashutosh has mentioned, besides the IP support that the startup gets, which has been funded by Big, they also get access to the other experts. So through i-TTO, i-TTO is associated with BBIF, which takes care of the big innovators or entrepreneurs, and we help them with the IP part as well as giving them access to regulatory experts and helping them with the technology transfer, connecting with them with the relevant partners for collaboration, identifying expertise. So these are some of the pointers, benefits that you would get if you get associated with FIT. We have a question from Dr. Patel. When there is a patent file from an institute, can it ask for a share if it's commercialized? Yes, Dr. Patel, it can, provided the institute has an enabling policy for it. So, for example, IIT Delhi has the IP policy, and that clearly says that there's a division of the revenue generated from commercialization between the institute and the inventors. So, you can the institute can definitely ask for the share. If you don't have a policy, if the institute doesn't have a policy, you can get in touch with us. We can help you in creating one, or letting you know what are the broader uh, framework for it, how you can do it. And I think you have an add-on question. I mean that if the institute has paid all the fees to file the patent, can the institute ask? Yes, they can. So if they have paid all the fees and everything, they are actually the applicant. So once it's commercialized, they can take a share from the revenue. Generally the question is other way around, can the inventors get the revenue? So but yes, both the inventors and the applicant can get the revenue. They should have a policy framework with them which clearly defines how it is going to be divided. uh, Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for this question. How to choose right company for support in processing institute patents? Is i-TTO having a common fee structure for institute, or is it negotiated? So you can look for a company which fits the bill. From i-TTO side, I can let you know that we have the experience of dealing with IIT Delhi. And now, as i-TTO, we are working with other institutes as well. I was heading the IP and tech transfer team at IIT Delhi as part of the FIT team, and have looked after have handled their 950 patents so far, the portfolio of 950 patents, and helped with the technology transfer. So that is the experience that we have. Rima has worked with the Stanford India Biodesign program, which is now the School of International Biodesign. So our team has a mix of technical and professional experience. So it's you can choose us if you want. You can try us out. Write to us. We may have some options to experiment with us. So write to us. And yes, we do have a fee structure for the institutes, but it depends upon what is the exact need of the institute. We will be happy to discuss it on 101 and see how we can help you. Rima, is there anything that you would like to add?
You answered it already, ma'am.
Okay, so we have
And
six. Yeah, sorry, Rima, go ahead.
sorry, because ITTO is established under National Biopharma Mission. So we are non-for-profit organization. So our fee is very nominal. So you can try and check and connect with us.
Right, and even though we are kind of funded by NBM, I would like to clarify we are not limited to biopharma or biotechnology or life sciences. We work in all domains, right from robotics to IT to electronics to mechanics, electrical, all fields we work on them. So we are not limited to life sciences. Right. So Ashutosh, as the as there are new incubation units as well coming up. I believe there's one larger one through the science park coming up. So when do we expect that to be open to the public, and how the other institutes or innovators can get access to it?
Yeah, Pooja, right. I mean, that's a very bright question. So, FIT is into an expansion mode now. I think, as we know, we are into incubation for almost 2 decades, more than 2 decades now, and about 130, 140 companies we have supported through incubation. But our targets are much more. And with the R&I park coming in the Horse Khas campus and the Sonipat iTech already in operation since 2018. Now we are into an expansion mode, and maybe we'll be able to support these 130, 140 at one point of time. So there's a lot of space available, and also in terms of facilities. So we are creating a lot of facilities in terms of rapid prototyping, advanced prototyping. There'll be semiconductor labs, there'll be biotechnology labs. We are building biomedical instrument calibration lab, and again the central research facilities of the institute. So for materials, there's Spita lab, we have an NRF, and there are other central research facilities available at IIT Delhi that are also available to startups on paid basis. So that whole technical ecosystem is also available. And with this new science park building coming up, we'll also be housing some corporates there. So that industry connects also keeps on running. So there's a lot of scope, and people from outside who want to incubate at our new research park. So we'll be, I think, asking for applications for it, right, starting from April. Probably by the mid of June, we'll be moving there, and our labs will be kind of up and running, and few things will be. So the basic work is already done. Now only the equipment and furnishing and all those things are remaining. So somewhere in the middle of this year, we'll be able to be there. So we are always open to application, also open to inventors who want to discuss their products, discuss their ideas with us, and wherever we can help, we'll be happy to help.
Right, irrespective of the fact that the science park is still under development and still to come up with the facilities, uh, we, I would say, FIT is always open to help the innovators. So it's not just about connecting with IIT Delhi faculty. We do kind of help the innovators connect with other faculty members at other institutes or other startups, as a matter of fact. So if there is anything that you feel you have any questions, any help required, please do reach out to us. We don't charge for helping you out or connecting you to people. If there is any kind of a payment or any charges which may be involved because of some advisory or some professional services that have been given, we would definitely tell you upfront. But yes, ask the question. We are not going to charge you to answer that. Write to us. Our email is being floated. And with this, I think our session is going to end in another 2 minutes. Uh, we have one last question, Ashutosh. You people are proficient and efficient in IP. Okay, it's more of an appreciation. Thank you so much, Dr. Shrikumar. The session is very interactive. I admire it. Thank you so much. We thank you for being part of the session and listening to us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for thanking us, and Dr. Patel Thank you so much for asking the pertinent questions, which are very essential from an academic institution point of view. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending the session. Thank you, Mr. Kanan, for appreciating the session, and we look forward to meeting you again for other sessions as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was like really an interactive session and there were really great insights. We would love to have you again with us. And thank you so much. We will continue with Miss Rima at 4 o'clock. She has a session with us. Please join her as well. She will be she will be speaking on key insights in academic technology transfer. So yes, stay tuned. We'll part for lunch and then you can join us for our next session at 2 p.m. The link is in the comment section as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mansi, for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
you.
man.
Thank you so much.